In this next section, we say let's explore R a bit. So now we're going to go through this second code chunk, and we're going to see what happens when we run each of these lines. So again, I encourage you to pause the video and run this code in your own file. Try to keep up with the video so that you can see for yourself what happens in your own on your own computer. So you can read this. I'm explaining there that read CSV is the function, and it opens the CSV file that we specify, which is demodata.csv, which is one of the files you downloaded, and we are giving it a name with this function. We're saying to R, read this CSV file and give it this name. And this name, this thing that we're creating, we call an object. So place your cursor anywhere on that line, press Ctrl Enter at the same time, and then your file was read and this object was created. Again, you just get some messages. It's just telling you a little bit about which columns it found there. You can ignore it or you can read it. Sometimes it's useful to see what it's doing. Now what we're going to see is we created this object, gave it this name, demo data. So now let's see what happens if we run this code. If we just run the name, what might happen. And you see here on this side in your console, that's where you see your results. And you see what's happening there. So it shows you the name, because that's the code that you ran. So it just shows you which code you ran, and then it shows you the output. So it says a tibble, it says 50 by 6, then it gives you a row of names, it seems, number, name, ZA, age, job, rating, marks. Then it gives you some other information in these strange brackets, and then it gives you a few lines of data, and then it says with 40 more rows. So this is a default way in which RStudio and the specific tidyverse package that we're using, this is the default way in which it displays data like this. So there's a word data frame that I've used here and also there. And so we just quickly have to talk about what a data frame is. So a data frame is just a special name in R for a spreadsheet-like file. So the object that we created when we did this, we read in this file, which itself is kind of a spreadsheet-like file. This object that we created was a data frame. That is the object that this function, that's what the function does. It reads in a file and it creates sort of a spreadsheet-like object in R. And so basically this is just a data file, and this is the top 10 rows of the data file, this object or the data frame that we created. So by default, R doesn't show you the whole thing because usually we work with large data. So your data can have thousands of columns, thousands of rows. So there's no way to look at it. You can't print it out the way, or open it in Excel and look at the spreadsheet the way many of us are used to doing, because the data we work with is many times very large. So by default, RStudio and this tidyverse package just shows you the top 10 rows of the data, and then it prints here for you how many more rows. So this isn't a big data set. but this may as well have said with 40,000 more rows. And it's basically, but looking at the first 10 rows, you get an idea of what is in this data. And then we have only a few columns here. If there were many more columns, then also by default it would have given you only as many as would fit into this screen. So that's a data frame. So what's a tibble? So a tibble, I never know. I'm not a Star Wars or a Star Trek fan. So fans of either of those will be able to know which one it is. It's a reference from either Star Wars or Star Trek. I don't know. But anyway, it's just in this tidyverse package, that's just a quirky name they came up with. What they mean is data frame, but it's just a very special kind of data frame. It's not the default data frame that R usually uses. It's this special tidyverse data frame, and they call it a tibble. It's a wordplay on table. So you should just think of it as a table, a thing that has rows and columns. So this 1 to 10 that you see here, that's not actually in the data. There's no column in the data that has these numbers, these specific numbers to the left. That's just R's numbers like before. It prints out the results and it just numbers the rows for you. This number here, which is also 1 to 10, that's actually in the data. That's a column in the data that actually has numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. This is your column names. So you've got number, name, ZA, age, job, rating, marks. That's the names of your columns. And then, like I said, this is the first 10 rows in each column. So age, the first person is 27, next 23, 24, and so on. So that's basically just, this is how you would look at data that you read into R. So we already answered this question, what is a tibble? It's just a special kind of data frame, and a data frame is basically a spreadsheet-like object in R.